Live with the community. This is the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Development bi-weekly call. Today is November 10th. How did that happen? We are well on our way into winter, but we are all warm together here in the community. So let's take a look at our agenda for today. We're going to see the latest updates in the community around PnP.NET libraries, PowerShell, Yo Teams, Microsoft Teams Toolkit, Microsoft Graph Toolkit, independent publisher connectors, so many updates. It's awesome. Then we're going to talk about some samples, script samples, team samples, Power Platform samples, and then what time will it be? It'll be picture time. So we're going to get our fabulous faces showing up so that Vesa can take a picture and show off what a great community we are. Then we're going to get to our all-stars of the day. Anoop from Content and Cloud is going to talk about PowerShell predictors for PnP PowerShell and CLI for Microsoft 365. And then Daniel Laskowitz from Microsoft is going to cover the Power Platform communication site template. So we look forward to seeing those two demos from our all-stars today. Now let's begin by talking about opportunities to participate in the community. We absolutely welcome you to get involved in the community. In fact, we have made it easy on you. We would like to see you request a demo spot. And so you can go to aka.ms/m365/request or PnP, request/demo. You can fill out a little form that would tell us that you'd like to participate in the community. And you may say, well, what am I going to show off? Well, you can show off samples that you have created. And if you have not created any yet and contributed, we're going to show you how. So we'd also like to hear some feedback. So is everything going well? We'd like to hear that. Are there areas that you'd like to see us do more of? We'd like to hear that. Are there things we're not doing that you'd like to see us do? We'd like to hear that as well. We just want to make sure that you keep it constructive and positive so that we can ensure that it's a wonderful community for everyone. So again, if you'd like to demo, just fill out that form and we will get back to you to schedule you in. We've got a number of openings coming up, so don't hesitate to fill that out at all. Now, we also have a number of resources available to you. We've got developer and community videos. We've got open source projects for SharePoint, and Office Dev, Microsoft Graph. As mentioned, we've got tons of sample galleries across the entire stack. So team samples, SPFX samples, Power Platform samples, list formatting, SPFX extension, ACEs, so many more. So there's a ton of samples available to you. And you may say, well, that's a lot of stuff to keep track of. How could I possibly find one place? We got you covered. All you need to do is go to aka.ms/m365/community, and it will give you access to all of these amazing resources that are available to you at no cost. By the way, this is an open source initiative. Sharing is caring, and so none of these things will cost you any moolah at all. So isn't that wonderful? All right, let's talk about the community calls. There are lots of plentiful, wonderful community calls for you. The first is the M365 platform. Now, this is a weekly call that happens on Tuesdays. What makes this unique is that it's only Microsoft presenters. And so what's wonderful is you're going to get everything directly from Microsoft. You're going to hear program managers and project managers talking about their features and functionality that is available to you and that you can get more involved with. And so you're going to get it straight from the mothership, which is fantastic. So don't hesitate to sign up for that one. We also have a bunch of community calls, adaptive cards, Microsoft Identity Platform, Office add-ins, Power Platform, which is next week on Wednesday, going to be live from the Minnesota Microsoft Technology Center, by the way. So that's going to be a really cool, unique opportunity. And then we've got our two Microsoft 365 and Power Platform development, which is today, and the Viva Connections and SharePoint Framework, which is next week. Those are bi-weekly calls that alternate, and so we invite you to join any and all that are applicable and valuable to you, which they all absolutely are. You can see them all at aka.ms/m365/calls. Now, speaking of that platform call, the next one will be on the 15th of November, next Tuesday. We've got Brian Jackett and Jason Johnston, that's a lot of J's, calling Microsoft Graph from .NET Interactive Notebooks. So we'll likely get one more demo in there for you as well, but some of those are TBD right now, so definitely tune in. You can get to that invite from aka.ms/m365-dev-call. Now, you're going to see a number of initiatives today that you can be part of and you can interact with. And you may be a little intimidated. I'm not sure how to do that. Well, the Sharing is Caring program is a program here that provides hands-on guidance. And if you're not familiar with that, that means it's live sessions, not recorded. So it's a safe space for you to contribute to and interact with. And we're going to show you how to do things like submit your first pull request if you've not done it, or give you some tips and tricks around that. And we want you to be empowered. And so we are going to ensure that you're empowered by doing those pull requests with you. You're going to actually submit a real pull request. And so we're going to do that together. It's a safe space to ask any and all questions that you would like. because we're not recording it. So we've got the Power Platform Samples Contributor coming up on November 28th, just after the American Thanksgiving. So there's plenty of time for you to get registered. And we've got more coming up, writing for the web, using PnP SPFX samples with NVM. So don't hesitate to go keep an eye on those as they get updated, as I mentioned, completely free of charge. Now, once you have contributed, we want to recognize you for all the amazing work that you're doing. And the PnP recognition program is here to do just that. Now, this is powered by Credly, the same Credly that gives those badges to you when you get certified. It is no cost. Again, everything in the community is free of charge. We cover the charge for you, but it's a great way to get involved. And these are official badges, so they sit right alongside those certification badges. You can share them on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and we know how important it is to show that you're making a difference to your clients or your customers. And so we absolutely want to make sure that you're able to do that in a formal and official way, and this is our give back to you. Now, the weather's changing, isn't it? We're having to start the campfire. Can you hear that? The campfire's lighting. We're starting to get excited for the winter. And so what have we done? Oktoberfest is over, but what could we do to now recognize you during this seasonal time? Well, we are starting the Season of Getting. That's right. We love alliteration on this team. So we're going to start the Season of Getting. So if you make a PR during the month of November and December, or December, it doesn't have to be both, you will get a Season of Getting badge. And so it's a fun little way for us to recognize the work you're doing this time of year. When you've got so many other things that you can be doing, you're still giving back to the community, and we want to thank you for that. All right, let's move into some project-specific updates, and we'll turn it over to Bert.
Thank you, David. Yesterday we released PnP Core SDK version 1.8, so it has been like 3 months before the previous release, so really happy to get it one out. Contains a ton of new stuff. Key new things are, for example, support for .NET 7. Did you know that .NET 7 was released like the day before? So we are really quick with our .NET 7 support. Like 1 day after GA of .NET 7, you guys can start using .NET 7 in PnP. Other things, support for column defaults, support for mocking frameworks, search refinements, well, plenty of changes in the core library, and the same for the admin library. Again, several changes that are part of this new release. All right, let's move to the next one, because if you do PnP Core SDK, we also have to release PnP Framework, because they both go together. So again, main thing there is .NET 7 support combined with all the fixes that have been accumulated over the last nightly builds. So again, a ton of smaller and bigger improvements, including the new schema. Let's call that one out. The September 2020 schema containing new features for you to use in your provisioning scenarios. We already covered the new releases, 1.11 for Framework, 1.8 for Core SDK. One other thing there is also it's C#10 now. So if you are contributing writing code in one of those libraries, we flipped from C#8 to 10, so you can use a bit more fancy C#. On the framework side, there's several fixes from Miguel, Martin, Patrick, Autophonus. I don't know who that is, but that's a GitHub account, Christian and Heinrich. On the Core SDK side, Martin did a change to enable, to kind of extend our taxonomy support. He wrapped a CSOM method that allows you to get terms by properties. And that's now integrated into our model, meaning you used to use our terms model. And for the most part, we use Graph, but we can also use CSOM under the covers. But you as a developer, giving the approach, you don't know that so it all is transparent. I think that sums it up, David. Let's then move to PowerShell. Thank you all.
I'll cover this. Version 1.11 was released. Version 1.12 is coming soon. 3.5 million downloads, everybody. That is awesome. 100 million commandlets executed per day. I feel like Dr. Evil has his finger up somewhere. Docs have shifted. Documentation, articles, and tips are available at pnp.github.io/PowerShell. And it runs in Azure Cloud Shell, Azure Functions, Azure Runbooks, Raspberry Pi. So some of the new stuff, nightly builds continue. As mentioned, 1.12 coming soon. There's an improved PnP Azure AD App Site Permission commandlet, improved PnP Tenant ID commandlet, improved PnP Image List Item Column commandlet, Woo, lots of commandlets. Awesome. Bug fixes, improvements continue. And what's next? Would love to hear your thoughts. So don't hesitate to add feedback. And Bert, you have something extra?
Yeah, one more thing on the release. Really soon means actually today, this evening, we have a meeting scheduled at 6 our time to get the release out. So you can try the new PowerShell version this evening and tomorrow.
Awesome. Everybody's going to be staying up late tonight. So excellent. Thank you, Bert. All right, let's turn it over to Tommy for Yo Teams.
Thank you, David. 3 bullet points on this slide. First, what's new? Yo Teams build core v1.8 is out with thanks to Robert and Rick that managed to add some fixing in pipings, and Rick did a code QL analysis. And we also switched in our branch hierarchy branch idea from master to main, and we did a lot of cleanup stuff with all branches. What's next? The team is working on docs. We are also thinking of maybe producing more introduction videos in a style like I'm not really, or I will play the new developer and Rick and Stefan will guide me along to the experience of Yo Teams. We are also working on our VS Code extension for Yo Teams. We would love to have feedback. We already started working, or to be precise, Stefan already started working on that one. But please give us feedback in GitHub for what you want us to implement, what you maybe want to add on your own, what use cases you can think of for the code extension. We are working, of course, still on SSO, Microsoft Graph Toolkit, and some meeting apps samples, and we would like to have your help. We discussed this in our smaller team a couple of days ago. Please help us with bug fixes. Please help us with more feature ideas. Just jot down your ideas in GitHub. Maybe you can spend an hour to code, and we would actually, before I hand it over back to David, we will also like to think of a sharing is caring session for your teams to get you started with your efforts in that direction, but maybe early next year. Thank you, David.
That is music to my ears, Tommy. So love that. We're absolutely going to do a sharing is caring session on that. So woo, thank you. All right, let's move over to Microsoft Teams Toolkit with John.
Awesome time for developer tools. Love seeing all the updates. So in Teams Toolkit, we have a couple updates to share. The latest version of the VS Code extension is out, and that was just released a little bit earlier this month. And I think the main things to call out here is we've been working on the SDK to make that just a little simpler, cleaning up some of the APIs, making it easier to get authenticated graph clients directly from the SDK. We've also bumped it to a 2.0 version, and that's really to try and align with compatibility with Teams.js 2.0 or 2.x, I guess, and anything above 2. So that way you can deploy across different hubs of M365 with TeamsFX and get full support for that. And then also the Teams Toolkit for VS extension has also been updated in 17.4, which just shipped a couple days ago. So now you can create a tab. We have a little more options in the project templates. We've been trying to clean those up based on the feedback we've been getting. So you can create them without SSO or with SSO. That just makes it a little simpler. So you can maybe have less code you have to chew through if you don't need it. And then we also have some features now to be able to add that back in if you want to do it later. And then we also included support for adding SSO to bot projects. So we have a couple bot templates in VS. So now you can add SSO to those. What's next? The big thing to call out here, we need help and feedback and opinions and testing out the previews. There's available alphas already on the GitHub for the VS Code extension for kind of a new way that we are making the orchestration and kind of the app model of what is a TeamsFX project. We're exposing that and making that configurable. So that way you can basically control every piece of what the Teams Toolkit extension does. So we've already released a little bit of this in the last version where you could configure what debugging was, and you basically get a configuration file to be able to expose all that with the task.json. And now we'll have our basically a YAML file, kind of looks like how you describe GitHub Actions, and that'll be how you can customize what provision means, what deploy means, what configure an app means. So this lets you have power to swap out things like if you have a different tunneling solution or you want to use scripts to provision instead of using our opinionated bicep files or our infrastructure as a code approach, or you have some other legacy way that you want to do something, or you have some other way that your business is already running, you swap it in and still be able to use Teams Toolkit. So we're looking for feedback to make sure we build that the right way for you. So go ahead and jump on the GitHub and let us know. That's what I got. Thanks, David.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Fabulous update, and excited to see this as part of the lineup of updates as well. So thank you. All right, let's move into Microsoft Graph Toolkit. There are some new updates. 2.7.1 just shipped. And so we're excited about that. Thank you to a number of people for your contributions. The MGT samples repository is live and well, so keep those contributions coming. What's next? New minor version coming up next week, aligning all Toolkit components to Fluent UI, more generic component and theming capabilities, and you can always install the 3.0 preview. You can always get more involved in the issues. Those are wonderful ways to get that season of getting. Those count too, even if it's documentation. There is no small contribution. They all are large and helpful. So check out aka.ms/mgt/samples. Now let's move into independent publisher connectors with Joss.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. As always, we have some updates in the world of independent publisher connectors. Since the last time we spoke, we have contributions from new independent publishers, including Aldo Galone and Leonard Schockert. We also have 7 new certified connectors from IP since 2 weeks ago as well, including the following: One Time Secret from Aldo, Festivo, QuickChart, and SMS Works from Troy, Dylan from Leonard, and Deep LIP from Mikhail. With all of these amazing contributions, we are now at a total of 196 independent publisher connectors. In proportion, the entire In proportion, the entire connector ecosystem across Power Automate, Power Apps, and Azure Logic Apps now includes 870 total connectors, which is, I believe, 15 more since our last session. That's more than one per day. An amazing over 1 per day rate. I'm just super duper excited about this. We're pushing for 1,000 within the next few months. It's going to be the most hype email I've ever written. Aside from that, I am really thrilled to announce the return of the Flow of the Week blog post. The Flow of the Week blog post initially started and ended in 2019 with the goal of highlighting how to build new specific use case flows. But Power Automate was a very different and a much younger product, and there are so many new exciting things to highlight now, 3 years later. I want to prioritize community involvement in the revival of this series by opening the stories up to you all. So calling all business users, all citizen devs, anybody who uses flows in Power Automate, please fill out this form and tell me about a flow that you use and how it's helpful to you. I will put all the links in the chat, but the link is aka.ms/flow-of-the-week-form. Please reach out to me if you have any questions about that, or if you want to jumpstart your connector building experience, and check out our repo with connector requests. Links will be in the chat, and handing it over to script samples.
Awesome. Thanks, Joss. And Paul Bullock, I promised you a little, there you go, sound effect.
Oh, lovely. Thank you, David. I feel all magical now. So Script Samples is a place where you can share your automation scripts with the community. So we've got support for the Microsoft Graph, CLI for 365, PnP PowerShell. So if you've written scripts for those tools and many, many more, and you want a place to share it, then this is the repository for those. And we have 185 scenarios now within this, so it's growing every week, so which is super awesome. And we've got 3 new samples to show you. So we've got download all content type template files with associated library from Leon Armstrong. We've got get usage for particular users or sites on the unified audit log from Russell Grove, and we've got copy the file structure of a directory to a SharePoint list, which is a migration effort from Russell Grove again. And we've also got, I just want to mention out 2 extensions that have been released by Adam Wolczyk, who've written these. The reason to highlight these is because they also consume the script samples. So if you use these extensions in Visual Studio Code, you can also see samples related to those particular tools, which is super cool. If you've got ways to contribute or you want to contribute to the repository, we have guidance on the site, but I'm also happy to receive messages from Twitter. My DM is open and things like that. But thank you very much for all your contributions. You're awesome. And also you can get a badge. So there's a badge for you if you've registered for the recognition program. So thank you very much. Back to you, David.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul. Great update. All right, let's move over to Microsoft Teams samples with Bob German.
Hi, everybody, and got a really exciting and cool new sample today. So since the beginning of Teams development, if you wanted to build a tab, you built a web page and embedded the tab inside the web, or the web page inside the tab. Yeah, got to get that right. Well, it turns out that Ramin Ahmadi from Content and Cloud has submitted an awesome sample, or it's now in the repo, which actually shows you how to build tabs using adaptive cards. This could be really handy in a number of scenarios where if you want to reuse the adaptive cards, maybe you want to have a bot because the adaptive cards get served up by a bot. So it's a nice way to provide some visual interface along with other bot type features such as message extensions or just conversational bots. He not only shows how to, how to build these tabs, but also how to authenticate the user and submit data from the tabs to the backend, perform graph searches, and even use dialogues. You can see one there as the animation plays. So really excited to have this. Thank you so much, Ramin. Hoping to get him in to show this to us and explain it in more depth, but the URL is up there, as well as the URL to all the other samples. So please keep them coming, and thanks again. And back to you, David.
Awesome. Thanks, Bob. Well done. Awesome samples there. Thank you all. Now, Power Platform samples, we've got a plethora of them. Got to get that in. Remember, sharing is caring session. If you've not contributed to this initiative coming up November 28th, wanted to say thank you to Daniel Laskowitz, who is joining our maintainers group on these samples. So you'll see us processing these even faster because Daniel is awesome. And you'll see that today in his demo. So don't hesitate to take a look at all those at aka.ms/Power Platform samples. All right, it's that time. Picture time. So we're going to invite Vesa to share his screen. Turn your cameras on if you would like to wave to the community and show them how awesome you are.
Yes, and I will put the screen sharing in place. Let's double check that the settings are fine. And we are crystal clear. This is good. We still have a few seats on the room. 50 seats in the room. For now, we'll get more seats at some point, actually, in Teams, which is really cool. We are not yet recording. Wait. Let's wait. A few more people in the room. A few more people. We'll still have few. I will put my video on as well. And then we will see the countdown. And here we go. 3, 2, 1. And let's do some hand waving, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Let's do a quick animation out of this after the call as well. We'll share it in the social media. I saw that Danielle in the back row. Behave. Excellent. Thanks, everybody. We'll try to keep animation out of that. Excellent. And David, back to you.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. That brings us to our demo presenters for today. So first up is Anoop from Content and Cloud. So PowerShell predictors, PnP PowerShell and CLI from Microsoft 365. Anoop, take it away.
Thank you very much, David. Right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this demo on PowerShell predictors, in particular for PnP PowerShell and for CLI for Microsoft 365 in PowerShell. Okay, just a quick introduction. My name is Anoop. I'm an MVP in Microsoft 365 development. I'm a developer at a company called Content and Cloud based in the UK. There are links to my profile and blog and Twitter and GitHub. You can follow me on those platforms if needed. Okay. So before I jump into the demo, I wanted to thank Koen, Gautam, Stephen, and Jason for all their help and input on these predictors. So Koen and Gautam helped with the idea of the predictors, and then Stephen and Jason, who are from the PowerShell team in Microsoft, told us how the predictors could be developed. So thank you to the team once again. Okay, now it's time for the demo. Right. Before I jump into the demo, I just want to set some context as to why we developed the predictors and how the idea came about, and then show you the predictor itself. We've got, with respect to PowerShell, we've got Windows PowerShell and the new PowerShell core, or which is called PowerShell 7 now. The demo that I'll be showing will be applicable only to PowerShell. Not Windows PowerShell, just the PowerShell core or PowerShell 7. The reason why it is called only PowerShell and the word Windows is removed is because PowerShell runs on Linux, Mac, and Windows as well. Yeah. Okay. So
what I've done is I've gone ahead and installed PowerShell 7 on my machine. You can do that as well. There are a lot of articles available on how to install it. And I have gone ahead and done that. So what I will do now is I'll just open PowerShell that I've installed on my machine. Now, there are several ways of accessing PowerShell on your machine. One option is by using Windows Terminal. The other option is, using the, the PowerShell 7 window itself. And then the third option is, if you've got Visual Studio Code, which I guess everyone has, you can open the terminal and then access PowerShell from terminal as well. My preferred way is the Windows terminal, so I'll be using that for all the, for this demo. But all the concepts that I'll be showing in the demo will be applicable when you open PowerShell 7 anywhere. Right. So we've got PowerShell installed, and let's say that we start the work in the morning, run a few PowerShell commandlets, and then finish our day by closing the PowerShell and logging off. And next day, when we come back to the office, or when you log in, you open PowerShell and you would start wondering, what was that command that I ran at 3:26 p.m. yesterday? So for that, what you would do is you'll use your favorite up and down arrows. Maybe that is one option to go through the history and find out what the command you wanted to run. However, what the community has done is, in order to make that experience better, they've given us a module called as PS Readline. So it is, I'll just open my browser window and show that. So it is this module, PS Readline. It is open source. A lot of community members contribute to this module. So what I have done is I've just gone ahead and installed this module on my machine by using the, all the instructions over here. And then there are some instructions as well. In order to, enable this module, we have to run certain commandlets. So I have installed this module. Now what I'll do is I'll enable this module by running certain commandlets. So I'll just open the profile in Notepad. And then what I do is I'll just uncomment these 3 lines. I'll be explaining to these to you in a minute, but these are nothing but the basic basic commands that we usually run once we install the PS Readline module. So I've made that change in my profile and then save that, and then I close it. What I'll do is I'll just open a new tab of PowerShell. Now, if I start typing in something, let's say foo, you can see that the PS Readline module goes through the history of all the commandlets that I have ran with the word foo in them, and then shows the top 10 commandlets. So with that, I can easily find out what were the commands that I ran with the word foo in it. For example, even if I run ngrok, you can see that it shows me all the commandlets that I have ran which use the word ngrok from my history. So this showing the history of the commandlets is just one of the many capabilities that is provided by PS Readline. Another capability is, so if I type in add, and then it shows me all the history. And let's say if I select one of the commandlets, and then if I want to cycle through the arguments, then I can just press Alt-A and then, start typing in some values, and then, cycle through the arguments again. So it's like, makes your life easy, this module. So, PS Readline, I highly recommend for you all to install that module. Because, and take a look at the blog post provided by Microsoft on this module to get to know all the information or all the capabilities provided by this module. Now, the best thing, or one of the best things of the PS Readline module is Microsoft have given us an ability to extend this module. in such a way that we can add our own predictions. So if I go back to the example again, wherein I was searching for foo, so you can see here that it searches from my history. Yeah. So all the predictions or all these suggestions are coming from the history. Now with the extension capability on the PS readline module, we can control these predictions and say that the predictions instead of it coming from the history, it should come from history and our custom set of predictions. So when we came across this capability, we thought that we can implement this for PnP PowerShell as well. So what do I mean by that? Say, for example, if you start typing in a commandlet, which is provided by PnP PowerShell, then you will get some predictions for that commandlet. So before showing you how it works, I just want to show the GitHub repository where we are hosting, where we have hosted this module. So it's under the PnP account under the name predictors, and we've got two predictors at the moment. One is the predictor for PnP PowerShell, and the other one is for CLI for Microsoft 365. So if I go into the PnP PowerShell predictor, in the README, we have all the instructions on how to install this module and how to start using this module. So what I've done is I have gone ahead and run this command, which is install PnP PowerShell predictor. And what I'll do now is run this command, which is importing the module onto the PowerShell window that I've got open. So I've just copied that, and then I'll just run import the predictor. Now what this does is this imports the predictor module in the PowerShell window. Now if I start typing in some commandlets, say for example connect PnP, you can see that we get predictions from the history, but at the bottom over here, we are getting the predictions from the PnP predictor module. So what I can do is, if I don't like any of the connect PnP online commandlets that I have ran from history, then I can just scroll down and then look for the other options that are provided by the predictor module. And then once I'm happy with one of these predicted options, what I can do is press Alt-A and then cycle through the arguments and then change them as and how needed. Now, if I show you a couple more examples, maybe get PnP, you can see that the predictor starts predicting all the commandlets that start with the name get PnP. Right. So how does this work? Well, what we are doing essentially is this predictor module, once you import it, it goes ahead and fetches all the commandlets from the PnP PowerShell documents, in particular the examples, and then shows them to you. So for example, if I go to the PnP, PowerShell website and then go into commandlets and search for connect PnP online. So what we've got here is on this page, we've got a lot of examples. And then the PowerShell module, which I showed to you just now, the predictor module, shows these examples as predictions so that you can select these examples or one of these examples when using PowerShell. Okay. So if I just go back to the PowerShell window again, so we saw that whenever we start typing in something like get PnP, it goes ahead and predicts all the PnP PowerShell commandlets. One other option that we have provided is something called as the changing the search method for this predictor module. So for example, if I just say set PnP predictor search, and then we've got a few methods on that to say whether the search should be a fuzzy search or a contains search or a starts with search. By default, it is contains. Now, if I change that to fuzzy, what happens is if I type something like update Viva, then it gives me all the commands that have the name, that contain update and Viva in it. So, for example, that commandlet update PnP Viva connections dashboard is shows up in the predictions. Okay, so that was the PnP PowerShell predictor module. Using the same concept, what we have done is we've created another module called as the CLI for Microsoft 365 predictor. So if I just import that module as well, which is, again, the name is CLI Microsoft 365 PowerShell predictor. It's in GitHub as well in the same repository under predictors. And then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and import that module. And then if I start typing in some CLI for Microsoft 365 command, that's like M365 login, you can see that it starts predicting the command, the CLI for Microsoft 365 commandlets, like we saw for PnP PowerShell. So again, the concept is the same. The examples or the predictions that are shown here are from the CLI for Microsoft 365 docs. We get all the examples from there and then show them as part of the predictions. Okay, now because we've got a few minutes, I'll quickly show you how we get these predictions. So if I go back to the PowerShell PnP PowerShell predictor, so what we do is when you import the PnP PowerShell predictor module, we run a small piece of code which goes ahead and checks the version of PnP PowerShell that you've got installed on your machine, and based on that, we go ahead and start predicting these suggestions. So if I go to my browser window and then I'll quickly show you the code. So what we do is when we import the module, we go ahead and register the predictor, as you can see on line number 18, and then we've got a path to the JSON file which contains all the commandlets, which I'll show to you in a minute. So if you look at line number 13, here we are saying that get me a JSON file which contains all the suggestions based on the version number. And then if I quickly show you the service itself, what we do is, once you import the module, it runs all the code, and this is the code that eventually gets executed. So what we do is we go ahead and get the JSON file with all the predictions, and then load that into the PowerShell window. Now, I keep talking about the JSON file. What does it look like? So under the PnP PowerShell repository, we've got a folder called resources and then a folder called predictor. And you can see that there are a lot of JSON files over here, each corresponding to the version of the PnP PowerShell. Now, of course, these are all nightly releases, but if we have a major release in the future, there'll be a JSON file for that as well. So if I open one of these JSON files and then zoom in a bit, you can see that we've got all the commandlets over here, the command itself and the command name. So the code that I showed you earlier basically takes this JSON and then shows the commands in the PowerShell window. Right, so that was the demo. So in summary, I showed you the the PS readline module, which helps us in showing the history. That's just one capability. We can also, look at other capabilities that is provided in the documentation. Now that PS readline module provides us an ability to extend so that we can show our custom predictors. And we looked at two custom predictors. One is the PnP PowerShell custom predictor, and the other one is CLI for Microsoft 365 predictor. And here are some links that can be used in order to look at the predictors. And with that, I will hand it over to David again. Thank you very much, everyone.
Awesome, Anoop. This is super, super cool. And I mean, all the time savings that it provides definitely adds up. I think the only thing we need is a predictor for the UEFA Champions League. And maybe that's coming soon, right? So we can get that in place. There was some mention about the the repo, I think it might be still set as private. So we'll look into that and get that taken care of, everybody. But really awesome stuff. Can't wait to see where this goes from here. All right, let's move on over to Daniel Laskowitz on Power Platform Communication Site Template.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Let me share my screen. There we go. So I'm going to talk about the Power Platform Communication Site Template. It's a new template that we created to help all the customers of the Power Platform. My name is Daniel Laskowitz. I am a senior cloud advocate at Microsoft, and I focus on the Power Platform. Let's move on and talk a little bit about a Center of Excellence strategy. The Center of Excellence, the Center of Excellence Starter Kit that has been created by Microsoft, by the PowerCat team, that's only one part of the strategy. There is a lot more in there. So Manuela Pichler of the PowerCat team, she also helped us develop the Power Platform Communication Site template, but she also does all the work on the Center of Excellence Starter Kit. And she also has a lot of guidance on adoption, etc. And one of the things that she also created is the Center of Excellence strategy. There are a couple of pillars: secure, monitor, app modernization, and nurture. And the Power Platform Communication Site template is part of the nurture part. But there are also really other really interesting things in there. For instance, secure. That's when you set up your data loss prevention policies to make sure that there's no data leakage or something like that. Monitor is really interesting to see who is actually creating flows and apps, etc., inside of your Power Platform environments, and who is actually using it. So that's really really interesting to see as well. And app modernization is, of course, about making sure to modernize paper form processes or third-party systems, legacy systems that you can modernize. There's tons of options there. The nurture part is all about developing training and templates, making sure that you show best practices. Also to really highlight the champions in your company that are creating really cool apps and flows around your company. And of course, making sure that the community within your company grows more and more. And it's all about encouraging ongoing engagement. And how can you do that? You can do that, for instance, by creating a Yammer or Teams group to make sure that people can talk about best practices and new features. You can share success stories about departments that are working a lot with Power Apps and Power Automate and one of the other tools. And you can show all those success stories about how they have created really cool automations, for instance, to save a lot of work. There's also the possibility of hosting events. So you can have lunch and learn sessions, for instance, to help people understand the Power Platform better. And of course, you can set challenges and run competition as well. One of the best practices that we always put out there was to create a central place where people can find everything about the Power Platform within the organization. So it really makes sense to have a SharePoint site where people can find everything about the strategy of the Power Platform within your company, to find all the training and the resources for your company. Also to find the data policies and environment strategy in your company. And there are lots of other resources that you can see there as well. Before, we always talked about that everybody could create a central place. And we've seen that a lot of companies actually created that as well. But also a lot of companies haven't yet. And that's why we created a template. And that template was there to give you a head start. So there's tons of companies around the world that use the Power Platform, and we really wanted them to also have an easy start here, to make sure that they can deploy the site without having to do all the work, because there's lots of work in that site template, for instance, that's kind of generic. There's also a lot of company-specific stuff in there. But we are providing the generic stuff, and we create placeholders inside of that template where you can fill in the details that are for your company. There are a couple of links here. A Microsoft Learn link, and that's the most important one because that's the documentation page where you can find everything about the communication site template. We also have an issue link. Whenever you encounter an issue, please file them. We'll make sure that we'll solve those issues as well. And of course, a download link to directly download the zip file that you can extract. And then you can extract that and have all the files there to deploy the communication site template. Well, enough talk about it. Let's move to a demo. And let's go to the browser. So here I have a SharePoint site. I already deployed the communication site template to my own environment, to my own tenant. And this is the home page where you will land whenever you have created this template. It has a web part at the top where you can have news, for instance. There's one news article there where you can already replace some stuff in there to talk a little bit about the strategy of your company and the stakeholders, etc. Below that, there's a welcome. A little bit lower, you can find the success stories and the champions of the week. We already created some templates in here or some demo content because we didn't want to have an empty site where you had to do everything yourself. So these are just fake stories and champions of the week. But it gives you an idea on how you can fill those. At the bottom, we also have some events here. So whenever you have a showcase or a company hackathon, you can add those here and see those there. There's also the possibility, of course, to have a Yammer community where you can talk about those best practices and the new releases that come out, for instance, and so on. At the top, you can see the navigation. We have a getting started, help and learning, Power Platform at low code. And that's a little bit of a weird link because I used low code as my company name in this case. Whenever you deploy the site, you have to fill in a company name and it will just replace all the company references with the name that you choose. So it will get configured a little bit better then. We have news and success stories, of course, and events. So let's start with help and learning. When you go to guided learning, you can find a page here where you have a lot of content in here for beginners, intermediates, for advanced, and it links to all the different Learn modules that are around the Power Platform on Microsoft Learn. You can also see that there are some things that need to be filled in. And that's, for instance, the link here. We just created a placeholder which you can edit and then change it around. And that is all highlighted in the docs. So I'll talk a little bit more about that later. There are tons of other things here as well. For instance, consultation. Whenever you have, for instance, a central department, IT department or center of excellence that will build Power Apps and cloud flows or desktop flows on demand, for instance, that's where this page would really help a lot. You can have like your center of excellence team in here to provide some details about that as well. There are also some other things like internal communities, which also links again to the Yammer community, for instance. And there's also a little bit about support, which you can fill in. So whenever they need support, they can go to the right places. If we go to the Power Platform at low code part, there's all the details about your Power Platform implementation. And that's all about environments, for instance. There are tons of best practices in here already. And that's what we filled in already as the sample content. But there are also some things that you need to fill in. So there's a link here, for instance. This is about company-specific instructions on requesting a new environment. So whenever a user at your company wants to request their own Power Platform environment, a lot of companies already have some kind of request process already in there. And that's what you can fill in here, for instance. And there are some links also to the docs, for instance. So if you want to learn more about it, you can go there as well. There's also parts about data loss prevention, for instance, requesting licenses, which are also processes that a lot of our customers have. And of course, we have the news and success stories, where you can just go to a page where you have all the success stories listed here. In this case, it's just one example success story, but whenever you have more, then it will fill up really nicely. And the same goes for Champion of the Week. The Champions of the Week are also listed here. Also, we have the events part, where you can have hackathons, for instance. That's a separate page that we have here. You can add all your different hackathons in here. And you can have also one page for the office hours. Again, it replaces low code, which is the company name. So it will give your company name in here. And here you can watch all the latest office hours recording, upcoming office hours events. You can see those, etc. So there's tons of stuff in here. Let's move on to the docs here. So when you go to that link that I already shared, it's the create an internal Microsoft Power Platform hub. And if you scroll down a little bit, there is a part about getting started with the Microsoft Power Platform communication site template. And here you get all the details about where you can download the assets. So those are the download links. And it will download a zip file. And the zip file, when you extract it, you will get a couple of PowerShell scripts and a template.pnp file. And that will give you all the resources that you need to deploy the communication site template. It will give you all kinds of details about the updating of the variables that you need to do to, for instance, update your company name or your locale or something like that. There's a bunch of details in here. There's also one really interesting part here. And that's the Set Power Platform Hub as DLP error settings. And that's a script that we also provide to make sure that whenever a user is using Power Apps or Power Automate, for instance, and they create a cloud flow where they create or they add different actions from multiple connectors, and they are not compliant with the DLP settings, then you always get a pretty weird error message. And this script makes it possible to point to the Power Platform communication site template. And it will give a user immediately the link to the right place on your website. And you can also add a support email if you want to, that links to your support team, for instance. So that's also a really nice one to see as well. There are some also troubleshooting sections here. So whenever you encounter some issues, there are some tips and tricks there as well. And at the bottom, and that's not last but not least, you have the configuration. And configuration is really important because when you deploy the template, you will need to configure the pages where I already talked about, where you need to replace the placeholders. And that's what is explained here. So this shows everything about the pages that you need to edit before you can publish the whole website to all your end users. And yeah, that's the docs page. Let me move back to the presentation for the last part. So yeah, the links. Make sure that you go to those links to, for instance, review the docs, add an issue, or download the Power Platform communication site template. And with that, I'm handing it back over to David.
Awesome. Thank you, Daniel. This is really, really fantastic stuff to show how we can increase adoption, awareness, education within organizations for the Power Platform. So thank you and the team for putting this together. Really, really awesome stuff. There's a couple questions in the chat, so I'll let you take a look at those.
I'll answer them.
Yep. Awesome.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Well, we want to thank our amazing presenters for today. Anoop on the PowerShell predictors for PnP and CLI for Microsoft 365, and Daniel for the Power Platform communication site template. Really great stuff today. Amazing tools. Cannot say how awesome it is to be part of this community and see amazing work that you're all doing to make it easier on one another. So thank you. You all deserve a round of applause. Woo, woo. All right. Recording will be available in 24 hours on the Microsoft 365 community YouTube channel. You can subscribe at aka.ms/m365/videos. You will not be able to download it directly from the Teams chat, so don't try. If you're not in Microsoft, it'll just lead to tears, and you'll need to go to aka.ms/m365/videos to subscribe, and that's even better because we'll let you know when it's available. You don't even have to keep looking, so go ahead and do that today. Follow us on Twitter at Microsoft 365 Dev or at M365 PnP. The next general dev call is 2 weeks from today, November 24th. Yes, that is American Thanksgiving. Yes, we will have a call. Yes, we are a global community. So we are here to support you every day of the year, every week of the year. That will be at the same time, 7 a.m. Pacific time. The next Viva Connection SharePoint Framework call, November 17th, 7 a.m., same bat channel, same bat time. You can get the access to all these calls at aka.ms/m365/calls. Thank you all for being amazing. We look forward to all that you're going to bring to this community. Have a wonderful rest of your week and a wonderful weekend.